Good evening. The lecture I watched was titled 10 Years of Southern Stargazing, How Star Trek Changed Everything. The speaker was Glenn Burns, who gave a brief recap of his professional career in regards to astrophysics. He began by talking about seeing Jupiter when he was a kid, and mentioned that Galileo was one that discovered Jupiter, and 4 for moons. This was a nice new factoid, as I was aware Galileo had studied astronomy, but I didn't know that discovery was his. The next big talking point was about Star Trek. As Burns said, Star Trek was very diverse for its time. It gave many groups the representation they deserved in the stars. This was especially notable as the show came out during the Cold War. Furthermore, in the real world, President John F. Kennedy made his famous speech about how the United States would get to the moon by the end of the decade. The combination of these two events created an entire generation of explorers who not only felt represented but couldn't wait to get to the moon and beyond. This was great and also a little funny, as to many adults this was just a strategic political power play, but for kids across the nation, the U.S. was going on an adventure to space. The creation of a wave of explorers has been well documented, especially with the award-winning novel Rocket Boys by Homer Hickam. It recounts a first-hand experience of the sheer desire to go and become part of the space race, no matter how young. Having read this novel, Burns' words solidified the impact of this show and the televised nature the space race had on young viewers, in my understanding. Burns also discussed notable figures in the space race history, including his friend Colonel Worden and the pilot of the glamorous Glennis, the first plane to break the sound barrier. I was unaware the pilot did this with broken ribs. That's truly a feat. Another big topic discussed was research. Burns was involved in quite a lot of it, actually. Notably radio astronomy. Interestingly enough, radio astronomy does not need to be dark in order to observe. To many astronomy enthusiasts, this is most likely common knowledge, but it seemed interesting to me. The site he went to was in New Mexico, coincidentally where Carl Sagan was filming his segment of Cosmos. Carl also did a lot of space promotion by making it understandable to everyone, much like Star Trek did, but he did it with facts rather than adventures. Burns also discussed the future of space travel. With the last space shuttle having been launched by NASA, it's now clear that space is still going to thrive, but in privatization, not through government agencies. Space tourism in particular, will become very popular. 2 years ago, when discussing and researching space tourism for a talk in my school, I learned that ticket prices were already being discussed, and people had pretty much made up their minds about whether they wanted to go or not when the tickets did become available. This indirectly is related to my major because as of right now, the fuel efficiency is not great for tourism. It does take a very long time to get anywhere past the moon. And so in the future, chemical engineers will have to go and try to improve the fuel industry so that we can travel beyond the moon much faster and hopefully in a cleaner way so that we don't try to pollute the vast expanse that is space like we did with Earth. But in terms of following up on a topic, I did go look and see if the vertical assembly building actually had its own weather. It seemed a little far-fetched, but it does, to an extent. Moisture condensation clouds form in the upper areas where they look like rain clouds, which is really cool. But that's not good for any of the equipment inside the building, so they do try to keep that to a minimum, and they have several countermeasures to prevent this from forming. So they're taking away the cool weather. It's still really cool. But that is it for the public lecture review number 1. Thank you for watching.